everyone, my name is Avery and welcome to... I forgot the name of my show!
Okay.
Hello Avery.
It's okay.
This is hard. Hello everyone, my name is Avery and welcome to the first ever episode of Fascinating Fantasy, where I'm going to go through lore and magic and mystery, ghosts and supernatural, anything that your mind can think of. So today, I was thinking, since I'm in my beautiful garden, I'm going to think about the fairies. And when you hear fairies, you probably think of Tinkerbell or the fairy godmother, and you are right, but there are also a lot of other things about the fairies. They come in all different shapes and sizes, and we're going to get more into that. So first off, fairies. What are fairies? So fairies are earth spirits. They tend to the earth. So the flowers that are blooming, when they bloom, when they die, when they come up, everything that has to do with the earth, that's what they tend to. They follow the 4 elements. So the elements are earth, air, fire, and water. And each one has their own little jobs. So fairies, what they look like. Now, again, they can look like a Tinkerbell-like fairy, a small little petite woman or man tending to the flowers. They can also look rather hideous in the way of, if you see them, they will probably scare you. And they also can look just like me or your friend or anyone. They can disguise themselves as humans, they can look human, they can look like animals too. So if you've ever been in your garden and a bird comes and sits near you and just chills with you and you're like, oh hey, how you doing? Might not be a normal bird. They might be checking you out. Now the reason why we don't see fairies day to day, one of the reasons is because yes, they do tend to the earth, but they live in kind of like a different dimension. So we live on this plane, and then there's like a veil. So the veil, obviously people have heard of the spirits or the ghosts who live in a different veil. You can't really see them. Sometimes they cross over, sometimes they just stay there. Well, same with the fairies. They live in like a different dimension, but they still live around us. So they tend to not want to have contact with humans, and there are many reasons why. A long time ago, humans and fairies, or spirits of the earth, worked with humans to help them with their lands, to help them with anything they needed. They worked alongside each other because they used the land to survive. When it was a certain time of the summer, they planted certain vegetables, and then near the winter, they harvest all those, and then kept them and jarred them for the year, right? The wheat, the everything like that. So once the years went by and technology got more and more, like everyone loves their phones and all this kind of stuff, and food became, you can get anything from the grocery store now. I live in Canada and I just got fruit from every different place I can think of from there. And I didn't go walk to that place, I just went to the grocery store because trucks and ships and all that stuff get it for us. Because food is so accessible and it's so easy to live now because of houses and cars and all this, fairies and humans started becoming distant because fairies still lived in the old ways and humans lived in this new age. Now the new age also started to pollute the earth, and people started to disrespect the earth by not caring. And the one thing fairies need and want is respect. If you do not respect them, they're not going to respect you. They do not have the same feelings as humans. They have their set of rules, and that's that. And if you disrespect not expect anything from them. In fact, they will probably play some tricks on you, or they can actually cause you illness. Anyways, so that is why most fairies now stay invisible to human eyes, because we've lost our ways. We can't see them anymore. They don't want to be seen. There are ways to tune into the fairies, and that's simply by just being. Meaning, you sit in nature and you enjoy and you don't look at your phone. I know you want to look at your phone, but you don't look at your phone. You just, be. And you listen to the wind, you smell the flowers. I'm telling you, these flowers right here, these are Dame Violets. They smell amazing. They smell like sweet spices. And just by doing little things like that, you're connecting back to the earth. You're connecting to the old ways. Just sit, listen to the wind. I can hear the wind right now. I can hear the birds. My favorite thing to watch are the little bumblebees, because their little fat bodies buzz around and they sit on the flower. And when they sit on the flower tips and it just looks so silly, and I love watching the bumblebees. Another way to in tune with the fairies is to meditate. Now, I'm not very good at meditation, but with practice, you try harder. Also, by working with the earth, you are also working with the fairies. So they say every flower has a fairy that tends to you. When that flower dies, the fairy goes in with the flower, and then when it blooms again, it comes back and takes care of that flower. So by planting flowers, by working with the earth with your hands, you are essentially working with the fairies. Another thing that you can do, if you really want, is you can give offerings to them. Now, you have to be very, very careful with offerings, because you can offend the fairies with what you offer them. So, when I say offerings, I mean some homemade bread, a little piece of homemade bread, or a sweet, or they like milk, they like cream, and they like honey. You just put a little bit on the earth. Do not say thank you. Don't really say anything. Just put it down and walk away. They will know, they will acknowledge that that is for them. Do not expect to come out of your house in the morning and see that offering gone. They won't take it. They will just take the essence from it. So they do not actually sit and munch and eat on it. They just take the essence. And if it is gone, probably a little animal creature has got a dragonfly buzzing around me. A little creature has probably taken it, and that's okay too. But if it's still there and an animal hasn't taken it, all you have to do is bury it. So just dig a little hole, put it in the hole, bury it. Don't ever just throw it away. Throwing it away is disrespectful, because you gave that as a gift, and now that they've taken from it, you just throw it away. You do not do that. You always, number one rule, you have to respect them if you want to be anywhere working with them, close to working with them. So that's another way. Absolutely do not ever give the fairies a piece of clothing or some sort of tool for a gift. They will automatically assume that they are not good enough for you, and you are giving them the clothes and the tools to make them better. They will think it is an insult. You know, Harry Potter, Dobby gets freed by Harry Potter giving him the sock. That is not true. Do not give the fairies clothing. They will leave, and they will not come back. And if you've made a relationship with the fairies, the last thing you want to do, sorry for that, fast car. the last thing you want to do is to break that trust and to break that friendship. So, we've discussed about what they are and how to get close to them and what to do to just be in nature. Now, I have to tell you that there are some warnings with the fairies. There are very magical fairies who will help you and will help your garden and will be nice and just live with you and be chill, like chill fairies. And there are ones who do not like humans. They will not work with you. Do not try and work with them because they can cause you a lot of harm. They can cause you illness. They can cause you even death if you work with these ones. So do not. Just don't seek the fairies out. Don't go into the forest and be like, okay, I'm here, where are you? No. Just sit and relax. Maybe visit the same spot over and over and over again, and the wind and the birds, and you'll just feel it. It's just a feeling. Do not expect a little creature to walk out. It's just a feeling. Just feel it. There are also fairies who like to go into your home and live in your home. Now, there are ways where if you don't want that to happen, there are ways to keep them out. And if you do want that to happen, then there are ways to invite in. But I'm going to talk about that in a different video. So, the best places to see fairies are obviously nature, and there are places called in-between places. So the in-between places are like pathways, crossroads, streams that like break off, anywhere like in between. Fences, like that, like you have a land and then there's a fence, that could be a good one. And of course, gardens, things like that. Places in your home would be places like your threshold, your corners, like any little nook and cranny. Sometimes your cupboards, they like to go in your cupboards, and your staircase, because your staircase is a path in between from upstairs to downstairs or downstairs to upstairs. Of course, fairies are associated with all of the elements and also the animals. So, like I said with the bird who comes and sits and chills with you, just let it be. Maybe they have a message for you, maybe they just want to give it to you through your mind, and whether you hear a message or you don't, you might not even know. The other animals that are big in the fairy realm are like birds. Owls are associated with the more darker fairies. Frogs. Frogs are a big one. You'll be surprised. Frogs are a big one. So be nice to frogs. Cats for sure, because cats have the eyesight to be able to see the spiritual realm and the human realm. So they like cats. And I've heard other people say that they don't like cats, but I do believe that they like cats because I feel like out of any animal, that would be an animal that they can communicate more with. Any kind of insect, butterfly, anything like that. Bunnies, anything that you just like see in nature, that would be associated with the fairies. The last thing today I'm going to talk about today, actually, there's two things I'm going to talk about. First off, fairy is not the only name for the fairies. In fact, they're not a big fan of that name. There are names that have been given to them over centuries, and they include, of course, the one I've been using, fairies, the fae, the fair folk, the little people, the green men, and there are so many other ones, but those are just a few. And I mean, none of them are incorrect, and none of them are correct. They have a lot of names. The last thing I want to talk about is the fairy ring. Now, I know you guys know what I'm talking about. You see it in movies, you see it in videos where someone jumps into a fairy ring and they disappear into the realm of the fairies. That is true in a sense, and you should be very careful about the ring of mushrooms, the fairy ring, because it is a portal to the fairy realm or wherever they will go, wherever like their dimension is. And the thing about the fairy realm is time does not work the same as it does on our dimension, our Earth. So, say I went into a fairy ring and I was taken, and I go into the fairy realm and I dance with the fairies and I eat their food, which you should never do. If a fairy ever offers you food, don't ever eat it. You could be trapped forever, you could be kidnapped, or the food that you're putting into your body isn't actually the nutrients that you need. So do not eat fairy food. Anyways, I'm in fairy realm, I'm having fun, I'm dancing, all of this, and then I go back. I go back to my dimension, I go back to Earth. It could have felt like I was only gone for an hour, but when I come back to Earth, I could be 93 years old, and my whole body could change. I could be a wrinkly old woman, and that is because time is not the same. What feels like an hour here could be 93 years there. There are so many stories about how people have been kidnapped or have gone to fairyland and have disappeared. They just disappear. And they come back and no one they know is alive and they've changed, and it's just because time is different. There's also been stories where they go to fairyland and they are in the fairy realm for what seems like years and years and years and years and years and years, and they come back and only 5 minutes have passed. So it's a very, very tricky situation when time is not the same with your realm. I think that's all the information I have for today. Thank you everyone for seeing this video. I hope to make more of these, and it's not just going to be about the fairies. I'm going to talk about lots of other fantasy, lots of other lore, myths, ghosts, the supernatural, anything like that. I just thought because it's summer and my garden is growing and it's beautiful, I will start with the fairies. So, I will see you next time on my next video, and I hope everyone has a lovely night. Bye everyone.